thwart! That was liquid football! He must have a foot like a traction engine!
The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding in this case is a football. Boom! Eat my goal! The goalie has got football pie all over his shirt.
Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. On this episode, we are looking back at the game against Pacific on the weekend in the playoffs. Obviously, Gary's here. Hey, Gary, how's it going, pal?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good. Well, I guess considering the result, not too bad. But
Yeah.
it was a really good day all around, though. Like obviously the result didn't go away, but the club put on a band beforehand, and it just felt like a party atmosphere. And I know you kind of said beforehand, I think you tweeted something that like it doesn't really matter about the result, like how much the team is turning around. I think that kind of carnival atmosphere just added to that kind of thing. So I like, obviously I'm upset that we lost, but at the same time though, it's just great to be everybody excited and all that kind of good stuff. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, everyone seemed to be in a really good place. Like, I agree with you. It felt like everyone had turned up with the MO of we're going to have this. I mean, knowing it's the last time you're going to get to do it all season, I think helps.
Sure.
So everyone just turned up determined to really enjoy themselves. And I thought the crowd were excellent, actually. Like, incredibly engaged. The most engaged I've ever seen the supporters. People were very intense. People were reacting to everything that happened on the pitch, and it just made for a really, really good occasion. And shame we didn't win, but I think as we'll get on to talk about, I don't think we didn't win because of anything tactical or because of the players that were picked or anything like that. It was just a game of inches, and that's football, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a really close game. Like, obviously we had a lot more possession, but I think that Pacific like really held us tight. But before we get into the game and get a little bit more in depth into it, I just wanted to get your opinions on the obviously we're recording this on a Wednesday, so there's only partial amount of what the CPL has released for the nominations for this, that, and the other. We did see like a lot of tweets of people saying, "Oh, I get to vote on it this year," and I guess we're not worthy. So.
What do you mean, mate? What do you think the reason is you and I were not asked to?
I just think that when you think about it, it's because we're Europeans and they have an agenda, an anti-European agenda.
Let's get that propaganda going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
what I think it is, mate, I think because you have a Molson Coors sponsorship, maybe Heineken had a word with them and went, "Hey, can't be mixing with anyone that's." It's like when footballers have boot deals and they can't play for certain clubs because it's Nike against Adidas. So I reckon they've looked at that and gone, "That Anthony, he's got a big deal, multi-million dollar deal with Molson Coors, so we can't fuck around with that." So I think that's what it is. Nothing to do with you or your opinions.
Well, what about you then? Where does that leave you?
I don't know. I just worthless opinion. Maybe
Yeah.
just don't. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I actually
Not
just think
sure.
that they think we're a pair of twats, and our opinion just doesn't.
Well, they would be right if they thought that. It's an
It's a
accurate opinion.
you know,
And
it's
to
a
be honest, I would have lent no integrity to it. I'd have just voted for the Wanderers person in every category. To be honest,
maybe that's why we didn't get
Yeah.
selected. But you know, had they picked us, it probably would have been one of the only good decisions they made all year. So anyway, leave our bitterness aside. Do you know what? I am like the worst person because like I'm always like feel like I'm left out of shit, and I get like
Yeah.
I get like kind of whatever when like I'm
We
a man in my 40s and I should just get the fuck over it.
Were you like that as a kid? Like, did you always think
Yeah,
all your little toddler mates were having little discussions about you? And
yeah,
what's
or
that-
like
what's that you said there?
I didn't get
What's that you're talking about?
It's an amazing Irish accent. I just think that well, you know, I always felt like I didn't get invited places, and I probably didn't because I am a bit of a twat.
Yeah, because you were always fucking whining about it, probably like you are now. They're like,
That
oh
is
god,
true.
he'll just moan about not getting invited to the last one if we don't invite him.
Yeah, so you think that would mean that I'd get invited, but definitely not. Anyway, so let's leave my whining alone out of this. So the three people for Coach of the Year was Tommy Whelan Jr., Bobby Smirniotis, and our good friend Patrice Geyser. So let's take our little Wanderers caps off here. They're doing it based on the regular season, not including the playoffs and the final stuff like that. So who would you like give it? Like as I said, we're taking your Wanderers cap off.
I mean, it's Tommy or Patrice, isn't it? It has
Yeah.
to be. Although I'd find it quite funny if they finally gave it to Bobby this year. It'd be like when Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar for the Covenant. Is it not the Covenant?
The Revenant.
Yeah, the Revenant. Yeah, when it was like definitely not his best movie,
Oh.
but they're like, we've fucking got to give it to him eventually. So I might give it to Bobby as like yeah, but no, it should be. I mean, it probably should be Tommy because they did win it by such a large gap. It wasn't a close run thing. They were the outstanding team in the regular season by a distance, so it probably should be him. But I could very, very easily form an argument for it to be Patrice as well, given where we were, where he's taken us, the turnover, his first professional job, the way he's galvanized the support. I mean, you could easily make an argument for him, and
like it was really, really tight, and then like Calvary just had that big burst, that big kick. They kicked on when everybody else was kind of just losing the game, winning the game, losing the game, winning the game. They were just getting the results they needed, and I think that was down to Tommy. Like as you said, though, you know, Bobby does deserve it because this is like he's gone to his fifth final. But they've kind of changed it a little bit, and you kind of feel like if it is based on the league, it would be between Patrice and Tommy, because like what Patrice has done in Halifax this year has been incredible. But you know, taking my Wanderers cap off, it probably should be Tommy.
You've had him on here a few times, haven't you, Tommy?
I had him on once.
You had him on once. Yeah. I remember it being quite a good one.
Yeah, he's a really good guy. He's a good guy to talk to, and
you look after your mates, don't you? You look after the people that come on.
I do. Well, I'm hoping to get Patrice on, so like next year I'll vote for him if I get a vote, which I won't. So the under 21 nominations, there was no Wanderers involved in this, so we've got no skin in the game. So it was Cameron from Vancouver, Debrienne, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
From Valor, and Quasi Poku from Forge. Now I have had Quasi on the show, and he is a very, very good player. But I think
nice guy.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. It's he's a good kid, and he's a really, really good player. And James Cameron's had an amazing season at Vancouver, but it just has to be Debrienne. He's just been kind of head and shoulders above everybody this year. That's what I think anyway. But you know, old Tommy Giraldo should have probably got a little there. I think he's been really good this year.
Definitely, yeah. How do you Debrienne? You say his name?
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
He's been twerking at Ottawa a bit, hasn't he?
Yeah,
like on Twitter, he's definitely twerking at him a little bit. And you know, with him, I've got a thing against him because when during my Twitter war with the Ottawa fans, when Ollie Bassett had a pop at me, he liked it. That Debrienne did.
Oh, wow.
So, mate, I'm baying for blood.
Yeah, so let's not pick it. I'm joking. No, but I think
it is him. He's the player. He's brilliant, and he'd be perfect for us as well. He'd be perfect for the way we play and the way we build, the way we look to stretch the pitch. But I think it feels like he's going to Ottawa, to be honest.
I think when he came into the league first, there was a big push in Ottawa for him to go there because he's from Ottawa, I think, and his family's obviously gone to the games. That was part of, like the fun he was talking about, you know, like they're in the stands and all that kind of stuff. But there was a big push for him to be picked up by Ottawa. So I think if he's not in Valor next year, he's either going to step up a level because he's definitely good enough to do that, or we might see him back in the capital with Ottawa, which. Yeah.
Who's the Valor player who, it might be him actually, but I don't think it is, who at the start of the season he won Player of the Month for the first month and he looked fantastic. It's centre midfielder. He was
Oh,
brilliant, wasn't he? And I've just haven't really heard his name in
they,
months.
they had a bunch of players that were really good at the beginning, and then they just fell away. And it's kind of funny, like they've got 4 or 5 like really good players, and it just feels like there's a bit of a gap between like I feel like this year obviously we had a couple of standout players, but the level's been kind of very similar like for most of the players that we have, and the same can be said I think for Forge and whoever. But I just feel with Valor they're it's just unbalanced too. They kind of they've got like some really top talent, and then they've got some players that probably aren't good enough. And it like they came out there, I think somebody had posted something that they wrote to the season ticket holders, said that they're going to change their scouting techniques.
Basically, they're going to spend more money, spend more of the cap. I guess that means.
I think so, but they also said that they're going to be looking more internationally, and yeah, but it sounds to me like, because they need to, I think they said they need to have 4 or 5,000 fans to break even or to make money for the club to be sustainable, and they've done a disastrous job in the last year or so with how they're engaging with their fans, and I think it's put a lot of people off. And then success breeds, like look at Ottawa, like I mean, like they were kind of hovering around 3,500, 4,000 fans, and then this year on the back of what they did last year, like it just just creates a buzz around the place, right? So
yeah, for sure.
they definitely need to. I'm trying to think of who that player was you're thinking of.
Yeah,
as I said, they've got quite a few decent players in there. Like like if
Gutierrez, is there someone called Gutierrez? Maybe.
Yeah, he's really good. There's Dante Campbell is really good. They have Debrienne. They had O'Heen's pretty much been kind of like a good player for them for the last couple of years. Andre John Baptiste.
I think it was Gutierrez, mate. I think that was him.
And their goalkeeper.
I'm sure someone's yelling at the stereo right now, but
stereo. Oh, there you go. We have transported back to 1995. And their goalkeeper's really good too, man. Like that Yezi, I think is probably one of the best goalkeepers in the league too. And then today, obviously, we had the defenders who were listed. It was Nimick, James, and Klump from Calgary. So take your Wanderers cap off again. Who would you pick from those 3?
I'm putting it straight back on. It's Danny Nimick, isn't it? Has to be. I know I like Klump. Klump's a really good player, but yeah, Dan Nimick for me. And that's with my hat on and off. Like I think I'd say that anyway. I think he's been a revelation and barely put a foot wrong all season. He has a ledge.
I think just from the rumblings I've kind of seen around, I think that Klump will win it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think personally, though, that Dan Nimick, as you said, been a revelation. He's been incredible. And I think it'd be a shame if he doesn't win it. But I think just from what I've seen here, there, and everywhere, it seems like Klump will probably get it, because he's a solid guy. He came into the league, was it last year, the year before, and he's just he always pops up with a goal when they needed to. And I know that Nimick's done really well for us this year with penalties and his assists and stuff like that. But I don't know, just there's something that it just needs to be gearing towards Klump. But I definitely think it should be Nimick. Like I mean, I think I saw today, you got 3 assists, 6 goals for a defender is pretty fucking special. Yeah, so that's that kind of housekeeping done and our grumpiness, and I've been trying to avoid and just talking about that fucking game on Saturday, to be honest. But it just the lead up, as I was talking about, like the lead up to it, like the fact that it was sold out and like tickets were like gold dust. It's just another sign of how big the club is in the city now, and how much we definitely need this stadium and all that kind of stuff. But cracking on into the game, obviously there was a bit of a lineup change where we had Jake Ruby switching to right back, I think, and Zach Fernandez out on the left. So Wes dropped to the bench, and like obviously Wes has been outstanding for like the past 2 months or so. So what do you think was the reason for that change?
I'm not sure. I mean, Wes has been a bit in and out over the past couple of months, a few weeks, sorry. So I don't know if maybe he's carrying something, but Jake Ruby is a really good player.
Yeah.
Like he's a really good player. So it's not like really a step down when he comes in because he's very good as well. Zach Fernandez on the left, they obviously see something there which they like. It felt to me like because Aidan Daniels also moved to the left-hand side. He wasn't a left winger. He was kind of the 10 that lives in that left half space in the pocket. And I think they wanted to get Aidan Daniels, Massimo Ferrin, and Zach Fernandez playing really, really closely together. Because if you think about kind of the technical and attacking talent on that side of the pitch versus the right side of the pitch, where Jake Ruby, fantastic fullback, but he's not the most attacking, and Callum Watson, fantastic off the ball 10, but he's not hugely attacking either. He's more of an off the ball player. So I think they kind of put their eggs in the right left hand side. We'll get those three working in a little pod, triangles, overlaps. They're good enough to play together to work on these relationships. So I think that's probably the thinking. I don't imagine that they foresaw Pacific lining up in a 4-4-2 with two big guys up front. I don't think anyone really saw that coming because they're very much a 4-3-3 sort of team. So I'm fine with it. Like at the end of the day, it feels strange seeing Zach as a left back, but he kind of produced moments in every single game where he's played left back, which justifies him playing there. And it's just another way of making the opponent second guess themselves. The only thing I'll say about him at left back, and like I don't think he would have scored that own goal if he was playing as a right back, and not because of a like. So where he's standing when that ball comes across, he tries to clear it with his left foot, but his left foot is at a weird sort of angle.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if he's playing as a right back, he's the one kind of facing up to that player or clearing the ball kind of on his stronger side where he can hit the ball a bit more cleanly. And I think that just a little detail like that, but you can't see that. You can't like guess that that's going to happen. So yeah, I didn't mind it. I like Ruby and I like Wes probably equally.
Do you think it had anything to do with like the pace that Pacific had down that right hand side, their left hand side? Like they've got like that Reed guy and then Dada Luke who is super fast. Like I know like Jake Ruby, as you said, is like really good defensively, but like he doesn't have the same amount of pace as what Zach Fernandez has. Do you think that was that might popped into his head of like why he put him there?
100%, yeah, 100%. Especially when you remember the first time he ever played as a left back was when we were playing Atletico Ottawa, and Assi was playing right back for them. A similar sort of physical profile to Dada Luke. So yeah, I think that's definitely what part of the thinking is.
So if like we had like so much possession, there's a couple of like little loose passes in the middle and stuff like that, and it was like I think part of it is that the game management that Pacific were trying to do, because they obviously played on the Wednesday night. They didn't get in here, I think, until Friday, so they had very little prep time. So it almost felt like they were like happy to let us do the running because they were probably bollocks from whatever, but they were really difficult to break down whatever way they'd set up. And that first half, we had a couple of like little pot shots, and we kind of created a little bit of chaos, but they really set up really well against us to just kind of catch us on the counter, which they did a couple of times.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to know how Pacific set up, James Merriman can tell you himself, because did you see that little clip that the league put out of? It was quite a nice little short montage video they did of the day of the game, and they were in the changing rooms and they showed stuff from what happened in the game. It's on their Instagram account. And when they're in the Pacific locker room, they're filming Merriman talking, and you can clearly see in the background their white tactics board and all of the information on there. So excuse me if I just look at my phone while I say this. So this is what Merriman had drawn on their tactics board. He has his team playing as a very, very narrow 4-4-2. And then the way he's guessed our lineup he's got one thing wrong. First of all, he thinks Daniel's going to be playing right wing and Watson playing as the left 10, but they were actually the other way around. But other than that, he's spot on, like the double pivot, Ruby as a right back, Fernandez as a left winger. Other things he's done is he's put a little star next to Nimic's name, Caligari's name, and Ferrin's name, which I can only guess is him identifying them as danger players who see a lot of the ball. The other two things he's done, which are really interesting, is he's done a huge blue circle around Ruby's name, and he's written exploit 1v1, exploit 2v1 over Ruby's name. So they've obviously identified Ruby as someone that they can kind of overload and move two players to play close to him and exploit in those situations. He's also done a massive blue circle around Fernandez, and in capital letters with an exclamation mark, he's written exploit the gap. So they obviously know, which everyone knows, it's like, we've talked about this for fuck's sake. Like, this isn't like genius. They obviously know Zach Fernandez is going to play as a left back, but he's going to play as a left back who pushes really, really far up, and there's going to be a gap in behind him. And he's actually also drawn a line going from the EO of Eastern Ongaro pointing into that space behind Zach Fernandez. So that's their game plan. Narrow 4-4-2 block, exploit our wings when we commit the fullbacks forward. And I don't really want to give the credit of saying it works, because again, it only works because Thiago Coimbra header was 1 inch higher, and Riley Ferrazzo's shot was 1 inch higher. Like, that's what football's such a low scoring game that I feel like sometimes we put way too much stock into the result. But if you played that game 10 times, we only lose that once or twice. So I just think James Merriman, and fair play to him, was trying to maximize the squad they had, maximize players who had 90 minutes in their legs on Wednesday. So designed a game plan which accepted that they would cede possession, which kind of stuck two big boys up front to be release valves for them when they finally did get out, and then just hope their speedy wide players would get something on the break, which they did. And yeah, it worked, but I don't think it was like some stroke of tactical genius or anything.
The second half, we definitely were opening them up a lot more. It just seems like we were starting to turn the screw a little bit, and obviously they're probably getting tired after all the travel and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to make excuses for Pacific either, because like you still have to play your game, but like it was just so agonizing, wasn't it? Like with that header, like the header especially, because I think Ferrazzo's one was actually a cross that just kind of went a bit awry, and the keeper just got a fingertip to it. But the Coimbra one was the one I thought that like standing behind the goal too and just watching it cannon off the bar was sickening.
Yeah, and the Dan Nimick header as well that was cleared off the line. Those were the two, I think, the two that you thought, oh god. And yeah, I mean that the stadium would have exploded if we scored on Saturday. It would have absolutely exploded. So that's a shame. It's a shame we didn't get that moment, but I feel like we will get that moment again within the next year or two.
I know that like a ton of people have gone through this in depth with the thing, so I just thought I'd talk a little bit more about different little bits and pieces that happened. But I thought that the time wasting thing that Pacific did, like a lot of people in the like on Twitter and stuff like that were moaning about it afterwards, and it's like, Jan's been doing that all year. Like you know what I mean? It's kind of like you got to play the game, and I would expect any keeper to do exactly what Gazdov did in that situation, and just because like they know the keeper can't be asked to leave the pitch, right? So they know that if he goes down, like whatever. And it was kind of funny, like their one of their defenders who was going over to check in inverted commas that the goalkeeper's okay, like started like smiling and laughing at the fans in behind the goal, and then he kind of like squirt like a little bit of water, and he's just kind of, it was just a bit of banter, which I love that. Like I think there should be more of that in football, where like, and we're really lucky like how close we are to the ground and stuff like that we can have those little moments with players. And there was a couple of moments as well where like people were giving Didic shit as well, and he was kind of smiling and kind of laughing about it. But for you, like obviously you're in 104, all the stuff that kicked off after the game. Did you get a
Yeah.
bird's eye view of all those shenanigans?
Yeah, I did. I saw him do the now infamous Degeneration X crotch chop. What a little fucker. It's very satisfying that he got a red card for all of that. Like, because I'm sure in the rules of the game he should be getting a red card for that. I don't really know how it works, but yeah, I'm sure. But the thing was it with the thing with him, like aside from a Wanderers perspective, where I mean, you want to see his comeuppance because like he was applauding us and like laughing after the goal, and like he kind of ran alongside of us, just like sarcastically clapping after they'd scored and stuff. So obviously, like he was like presenting himself as the pantomime villain and leaning into that role. But if I'm on Pacific's coaching staff, I would be fucking livid with him for all of that. Not just the sending off, but I would be livid with him for winding up the supporters, because if you think of like your classic team talk before a team plays at Anfield or a team plays a really hostile away environment, what's the last thing the coach says to them before they come out? It's silence the crowd, take the crowd out of the game, don't give them a 12th man, don't give the crowd anything to shout about, because your dream scenario as the away team is to start playing that game against us, is to keep the ball or something so the crowd are taken out of the game and are silent. But what Luke did is the opposite. He got the crowd on their feet and he got the crowd incredibly engaged and loud and passionate. That's the opposite of what he should have been doing. Like, this is me pretending I've got a Pacific hat on. Like, again, red card aside, like, it doesn't look like he fucked up there by doing that because they ended up winning. But I feel like they could have had a much more comfortable match if he hadn't have done that, because the crowd wouldn't have had this little villain to get intense about. And so, yeah, he'll probably have got an earful from his coaches for that, despite the fact that they won.
Well, as well, like I mean, there's kind of, I know adrenaline gets into these things, and as you said, if he's playing the part of the villain, and then the final whistle goes, and there's the emotions and stuff like that. But what he did was like absolutely stupid. But the thing, this isn't me being like all kind of like offended by anything, because like I don't really care. But the fact that he's doing that in front of the section he did, where there's like families and all that kind of stuff, I feel like the league and Pacific and himself should have come out and like maybe apologize a little bit for his behavior, because it's like it's not the normal winding the crowd up, as you said, like what he, like walking past slow clapping and whatever, like that's fine, but he did overstep a line, I think. And it just doesn't, it just felt weird that he got the man of the match for whatever, and which is fine because they always pick these things before the game ends anyway. But it just felt kind of weird that nobody's like acknowledged what led to that red card and the scuffle of what he did. It's just really weird that they're kind of just brushed on the carpet.
They mentioned it on the show that Andy Petrillo and Jordan Wilson do, and they showed someone from 104 filmed it happening, and they showed the footage. So One Soccer at least did acknowledge it. But the man of the match thing was weird, because when I kind of saw that before all of the footage came out and stuff, and I was like, I thought he had a bad game. Like, maybe I just saw the game wrong. And I looked at his stats on SofaScore, and I think he only played 10 passes all match and only made 6 of those passes. And his duels were quite good, but there wasn't that many of them. So I just thought that was a weird decision anyway, because I don't think he was very good.
Do you know who crossed the ball for the OG?
It came from the left-hand side though, didn't it? So it wouldn't have been him.
Okay, because I'm just wondering, because that's usually what they do if you're involved with a goal or you scored a goal. They give you the performance of the game. But so then, did you also see so he got he's got a 2-game ban, so like he's totally fucked himself.
They're appealing it, but I don't see how you can appeal video footage of someone.
I know it's
crotch chopping a family. To be honest, I don't really want to defend him because I think it was a dick move, but I like to give him the benefit of doubt. I don't think there was a conscious thing in his head where he consciously thought there is a stand full of families and children, I am going to crotch chop. I don't think that happened. I think he was just caught up in the moment. Probably emotionally a little bit immature as a person or whatever, and just kind of did this thing that he probably does in training to his mates when he gets the upper hand on them and stuff. And I imagine as he was trotting away, he thought, oh, fuck, what have I just done? Because as has come out since, all the players were talked to by the league after the whole Cavalry Ottawa thing about don't antagonize supporters and stuff. So I think very, very quickly, he probably had a moment of, oh, no. So, yeah.
But then I didn't get to see most of this because I'm obviously at the other end. But the Neil Henry is the one who's come out the worst of all this because he's got a 3-match ban. So like what I know that he came wading in with his shirt off.
It was so that was right below me, all of that when it
so like what happened there then? Like I just like I said, I only kind of got like there's very. The footage isn't great, so like I don't like having an eyewitness thing would be amazing.
I mean, it was a bit of a mess in there. So Dada Luke does his crotch chop. Dan Nimick spots it happening out the corner of his eye, and instantly he's gone. He's like head's gone. Well, not head's gone, but he's like livid straight away because he's seen him do it. And I think the players' families sit in the area that's
Dada Luke yeah. I think
did it towards. So I think the players, I imagine they all had family members there. So I think that was like a massive instigating moment. So Dan Nimick runs over, Omar spots him as well. Omar runs towards him. Jan Fillion appears out of nowhere running towards him as well. There's a bit of a scuffle. Pacific players pile in, and out of nowhere you just see fucking Daniil shirtless just charging into the mix. And like, you know what he looked like to me? He looked to me like a player who was like, I don't give a fuck if I get a ban. I'm probably not going to be playing anyway next season. It's like, nothing to lose, boys. And he just starts like shoving people, like getting in people's faces. And I think a Pacific coaching staff member must have said something to him, because I think it was a coaching staff member. The guy didn't look like a player. Because as it kind of like dissipates a little bit and people start chilling out and going off, the coaching staff guy has someone pulling him away towards a changing room, and Henry just makes a fucking beeline for him. Just like he's like parts the crowd and just starts charging towards this guy. But luckily he gets stopped before he can knock him out. But I don't know if that guy said something or who knows what was going on. But it was quite funny, really.
Yeah, like quite funny. And that's the thing. Like looking back at it, I think the CPL or One Soccer put out there that like a video saying that Pacific have won and Halifax weren't happy about it, blah blah blah. Like, which isn't the context of it all. I don't think it had anything to do with the fact that we lost. It was the fact that like somebody was like doing something stupid towards the fans, and as you said, like the family usually sits up there anyway. But it was just kind of funny, and I just think it was a kind of like a little kind of a funny way to end what had been like an epic season, and just kind of like it was just a little bit of a. At the time, obviously, it wasn't lighthearted, and obviously, as I said, what Dada Luke did was kind of shitty, and like something should be said to him, or he should apologize or whatever. But it was just kind of like a nice, like little kind of weird finish off what's been a crazy season.
Stuff like that is good for the league. Like I felt like that a lot this season. That like not a nastiness. What's like a softer way of saying something, like a tension or whatever.
There's definitely been like a more of it, because I think the league has been so close this year. There's definitely been like more of a kind of a rivalry feeling between a lot of the teams, and it's not just the kind of traditional ones of Forge and Calvary. I just think that everybody's kind of getting into everybody's faces because everything's been such small margins this year because the teams are so close that it's when you do win, it's that kind of sense of like we fucking did it, and you kind of want to just like celebrate and stuff for that. And I think that's been one of the biggest things this year of the league, is like how, like, obviously we're still going to end up at Forge in the final. Somebody posted, I think somebody put on, I think it was like a journalist in Toronto or something that put out that about the guy who runs the league, his team's been in the final like 5 years with that. It's just fucking horseshit. Like, it's all got to do with the fact that Forge is a really well run team, and playoff football is their fucking forte. Like Bobby Smirniotis has got it down to an exact science. So
And the thing that you see the argument every now and then, and the key point that misses is Bob Young is also the majority owner of the league, and it is absolutely not in his best interests for Forge to be winning it every year. Because if he wants eyeballs on the league, it can't be a predictable league. So he probably is sitting there going, "Oh God, I wish we weren't in the final again. I wish it was Halifax, so I also have a bit of a slice of the pie of instead." And like that's why you could never get behind any sort of anti-Halifax referee conspiracy, league conspiracy, because I promise you, if you polled everyone who is invested in the league, all of them would want a home Halifax CPL playoff final desperately, because it would look so good.
There's a reason why they're putting a national women's team game in Halifax in a pop-up stadium. Like there's a reason for it. Let's be honest. But like I do want to get your man in the match for. I know it kind of seems a little bit redundant, but who was your man in the match for this one?
It's Aidan Daniels for me by a margin. I thought I was so impressed with him in the second half of that game. I thought he was fine in the first half, but like when everyone came out for the second half, he honestly was a man possessed for the first 20, 25 minutes of the second half. And like you could literally see him internally make a decision of, I am going to be the person that single-handedly turns this around. He was like, I think in big occasions like that, some players get lost and some players kind of hide from the ball a little bit. But he was actively looking everywhere he could to find the ball and drive at Pacific, trying to make things happen. And I was so impressed with him. And I was really hoping he would score or something, because I feel like if he would have assisted a goal or scored a goal, he would have been the conversation after the match. But he unfortunately didn't. But I loved the attitude. I loved his attitude in the second half. And yeah, Aidan Daniels.
Mine is Daniil Henry, just for coming in shirtless into that melee and causing all sorts of havoc. No, I actually think Daniels was probably my one too, to be perfectly honest with you. It was kind of tough, because it was a really, as I mentioned, it was kind of a really tough game for us, because when you look at the stats and chances created, like the shots on target and shots and stuff like that, like we dominated the game, but it was just, as you said, like the football sometimes just to fine margins. But yeah, Aiden was really good. So I did want to, just before we shoot off, like we are going to do like an end of season review properly, where we'll give out the down the pub awards and all that kind of good stuff, and
the pubbies,
and we're hoping to have Patrice on the show to kind of get his little
who won our puppy of the year, or whatever the player of the year last year was. Was it Zach Fernandez? Maybe.
I think it probably
Rampy.
was.
Yeah, Rampy or Fernandez.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those two.
Sorry,
this year's going to be like a harder decision, I think. But yeah, I did want to just obviously for yourself, you released your piece yesterday about the season and all that kind of stuff, and it's got like quite a lot of traction on Twitter, and it's been like fantastic thing to read, and I'm really happy that you're getting so much attention from it. A lot of people like giving you kudos for it, and I saw Derek Martin said today that was really good and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of wanted to just, if it's okay with you, just kind of to get your process of like how you go about putting your blog, like your blog posts together. Like, so what do you start? How do you start? How does the process? Because it's, as I said, it's so well written. It was a lot of fun, and you can tell from people it was a really, really great description of how this season went for everybody.
I didn't actually plan to write that, so I lost the domain name, so I wasn't really going to do it anymore, because I thought like Josh and Martin from the Coast have been writing some brilliant stuff about the club all season. So I feel like that's enough. Like that's good enough. Like what they write, they're both really good writers. So like there's enough out there. But then I was I had a day off on Monday. I had the day off, and in the morning I went to the gym, and then I went to the coffee place on Spring Garden Road, and I was just having a coffee and thinking about the season. And I was like thinking about this idea of how like you remember because you remember sporting moments so well, you can remember life events so well as well. And I was just thinking about this breakup I had when I was like 18 or something, and I was at university. And immediately after the breakup, I went and met my mate at the pub and watched Arsenal versus Man United, and Man United ended our unbeaten run. And I remember that day, because me and my mate joking in the pub, like, fucking hell, that's been like one of the all-time worst days. Like, you're like 2-year girlfriend's broken up with you, and Arsenal just lost the unbeaten run. And like this idea of how we anchor these memories to sporting moments. And I was just thinking about like personally, like a lot of things that happened to me during the course of the season, and how I'd always kind of know when I thought of those personal events, I'd always like know when they took place, because I would remember the game I missed for this, and talking to Shep during the game about this thing that happened to me during another game. And so I was just thinking about that. And then, like, you know, when you had a coffee and you're feeling a bit energetic, I was like, I could probably like squeeze something out about this, like write it down. And then I got home and I just started like fucking about. And for some reason, like whenever like I write anything that's like quite personal, I always use second person. Like, you know, like, do you know, like first, second, third person?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember like high school English or whatever. So second person is like you use you instead of I. And it kind of creates this weird little thing where you can be really self-indulgent.
Or you're kind of like looking down on yourself kind of thing.
Yeah, but it also kind of like projects it onto the reader. So when you're reading it, you kind of think you're the one doing these things, even though you're not. And I think I do that because if I feel like I'm writing something really self-indulgent, it feels weird saying, well, I thought this, and then I felt this, and then I did this. But if you do you're basically still saying the same thing, but it doesn't feel so self-indulgent. So yeah, I just started writing, and then I was going to do like just about the season. Then I started thinking about like the live event you and I did, and the conversations we had around it, and how that kind of informed about how we felt about the season. I just started like typing it out, and then I knew I wanted to like focus on the Forge match a bit, just because like personally it was just such an emotional evening, and like one of my favorite games ever, like in terms of being live there. And then it just kind of like kept going. And my mum was visiting as well, so I was like kind of thinking about conversations I'd had with her, like about the game. And yeah, and then the title for the title of it, I was like couldn't think of what to call it, but I'm listening to this Charles Dickens audiobook at the moment for Tale of Two Cities. And in the first chapter, like this character is asked where he's going, and he kind of mysteriously replies, recalled to life. And so I was just thinking about that. And yeah, and then I just took me Monday afternoon, just wrote it all out, and then edited it a bit Tuesday.
Wow.
And there we go.
So what is the Charles Dickens thing? Is it read by Charles Dickens?
No, you know what? Actually, like I googled it the other day, because I was like, when was he alive? Is there any recording of his voice out there? But it's by like 10 years he missed out, unfortunately.
You know, as you mentioned with Josh and with Martin and stuff like that, like, you know, like it's very hard to, when you're not that kind of way inclined to be productive that way, to kind of feel the process, like to hear the process. It always kind of amazes me that like you're able to just sit there on a Monday and just like bash that out, and it doesn't feel like that was done in an afternoon. I felt like you were just like chipping away with that like for weeks. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I know. I always like my mum, when she worked, was a librarian, so in the summer holidays I'd always like, because we couldn't afford a babysitter or whatever, I'd have to stay at the library with her all day. So I always liked reading and stuff. And I think if you've always read, you just mentally have this idea of what sounds good and doesn't sound good. And probably like when you're writing, you get into a bit of a zone, a bit of a daze. Like you're not consciously thinking of it. And I think what's probably happening is like, because of the amount of fucking sports articles I've read over my life, my brain is probably like just subconsciously referencing all of them and going, well, that thing that person wrote sounded good, so and it's probably all plagiarized, to be honest, without me realizing.
So you promise you didn't just like stick a load of words into Chat GBT and
Chat
just
GBT, yeah.
yeah.
Second person review of Wanderers season. That's all I did.
So if anybody wants to check it out, where do they? Well, I know you said the domain's a little bit
Yeah, I don't know what
mishandled.
I don't know what it is now. It's like fromaways.wix site or something like that. But if you just
Let me just
on Twitter, follow me at FromAwaysHFX, and it's my pinned tweet if you wanted to read about the season.
let me see if I can find it here somewhere. Where are we? Fromaways.wixsite.com. So yeah, it's definitely
Twitter's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, exactly. But it is like just check out Gary's the Twitter handle from Aways HFX and check it out. It's so well written, and like that this is the thing. Like I know you mentioned about Josh and Martin. Like you all have your own distinct styles, which like I know you said that they cover whatever, but you cover it in a different way, and it kind of there's definitely room for all three is in the Wanderers universe.
Yeah.
So
just a shout out to them too as well, because like I think what they've both done throughout the season has been like no other club is getting covered like we get covered. Like Becca from the kitchen tweeted about it yesterday, like kind of the amount of people creating stuff about the club. Like for Josh, like the labor of love and I've tried to do this and failed every time, like the labor of love to actually sit down twice a week, writing articles, interviewing players, reviewing matches, going to training. And that's just because he loves the football club and enjoys writing. And I know the club do appreciate it, and I know the league appreciate it. But as supporters, I think we can kind of take that for granted sometimes and just go, oh, where's Josh's article? I want to know who's injured. I want to know whatever.
Yeah.
And like, so he's been doing that brilliantly. And Martin, like, again, I don't think people understand what a big deal it is for him to have produced such good articles that the Coast, which is for people outside the province listening, like the Coast is quite a big deal within Nova Scotia, the magazine he works for, the newspaper he works for. So for him to convince them to give him a weekly coverage of the club, and that's because his work is so good that people are visiting the site, are clicking on the links. The Coast are making money through adverts, so they go, okay, you can keep on writing and keep on covering this club then. So yeah, both of them have made this season so much more enjoyable for supporters. So massive shout out to them.
And the Coast, in fairness, them are really good at having their finger on the pulse of what's happening in the city too. And I think they probably realize that the Wanderers is a big thing that's happening, and to have somebody as talented as Martin there to cover it like really helps. Like we've seen this year, like with like Global have been doing stuff, CTV have been doing stuff. They've had Derek on a bunch of times, and they're actually like properly following the club. So like it's just the momentum is just really building, isn't it?
There's a massive audience for the club, and like this isn't a toot in my own horn thing, because I think like if you ask Josh and Martin the same, they would probably give the same answer. But if I look on the Global News Nova Scotia website, it says the page views for their sports articles and stuff, and I know I get more than those articles do, and I'm sure Josh and Martin do as well. So there's a massive appetite for Wanderers content in the city, and like kind of independent content as well, where you can have a bit more freedom with how you present it. You don't have to like not swear and like kind of do the journalist thing of like the what, where, how, who in the first paragraph. You can avoid all of that stuff and just kind of write with a bit of personality. And I think all three of us do that, so it's good.
Yeah, like just to like Josh, like I see him up in the box. Like at the start of the season, I was in the box, and it can be quite a lonely place up there, because like you're not really like you're trying to focus on the game, and like you're not actually like getting to enjoy it as much, because like you're trying to keep notes and you're trying to like concentrate on what's happening and stuff like that. And then, as you said, like going to the train sessions and getting the little bits and pieces from the players and making sure like everything is, you're quoting them correctly and all that kind of stuff. I just think that the amount of work that goes into it like is incredible. And it just makes me feel sad that you're so fucking lazy that you won't do this more often. So
want to season, mate. I'm like Ledley King.
But it's been like you're right that we are really really lucky that obviously like the big outlets are kind of catching on to what's happened here, but we also have independent people who will, through labor love and not making money and just for the love of what it is that they do and the love of the club, that they'll take it their own personal time and do this kind of stuff. We even have like Derek Simon and Jerry doing the Twitter Spaces on.
I love them. I really look forward to them. They're really fun.
So it's just little things like that. Like it's just great to have around, and like obviously Denton with the cookbook and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, man. So it's been an amazing season. I can't wait to do like a proper review of it and do the puppies, and there's a couple of other little bits and pieces that we're going to have in the next couple of weeks, and then probably take a bit of a break just because the season's over and all that kind of good stuff. But Wednesday, is it the 31st? The 31st that the women's game is on. So
yeah, you got a ticket for it?
No, it's midweek games, and like it's the kids are at the stage where we have to do like I had to do like Halloween stuff with them. So but I just knew that thing was going to be a massive sellout anyway. So the club did amazing to get the seats sold so quickly. But so maybe we might do like a little bit of a review after that, because I know you got tickets, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I didn't get tickets for it, but then Good Samaritan Dave Finlayson sent me a message and said he had a spare, so I bought one off him. So friend of the pod Dave helped me out big time, and I'm sitting in 103.
So he reached out to you, but not out to me. All right.
But to be fair, I put a pretty like sad tweet out there. I was massively fishing with that. Like, oh gosh, shame I didn't get tickets. I mean, good for the club and all, but I was like, wait for the little blue one to appear in my DMs. Someone offering me a ticket, and luckily Dave did, and another guy. I want to say thank you, Rich offered me one as well. So nice people out there. Because I put myself out there. That's why.
So kind of friend of the show, Dave Finlayson hooked you up with the show. So
friend of one of the members.
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
Show.
Yeah. Half friend, David. No, but that's awesome. As I said, like I couldn't have gone anyway. So I might actually see if you're up for doing like a little. Because I'll obviously watch the game on TV and get your opinions on that too, because it's such a momentous thing for the city and the club. Man, it's been awesome. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers, buddy.
Folks, please. Wait, folks, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out.